Hello and welcome back to our tutorial series. After last week's model of the neighborhood that we finished also in a 3D, and we were working with Slab tool mostly, but also we've been through the layout of Archicad and some other basic stuff. This week we have been through the modeling of this kind of composition, and for that we were through 3 different tools. First is mesh, and by mesh tool we modeled the bottom line, the map with the hill also. By morph tool we modeled some simple geometry on top of this hill, and the simple geometry can be in a kind of castle or church that is slightly more complex than just a projection of a 2D plane as we did in here. And the last part was to create a kind of a fortification of the hill with wall tool, and with this wall tool, through this wall tool we will also go through, or we will penetrate with window and door, but only as an empty openings. So we're gonna start with mesh tool now. So we open ground floor, move our buildings aside, and we will click on the left side under design tools. The last part, the last element is mesh tool. So I click on mesh tool, and what happens is that at the top you can see we have different geometry methods than we had as in slab tool. You can see. But the first 3 are actually the same, and we are gonna use only the first 3. This last option is a specific one. You can try for yourself if you want to. So as with slab, we can start to create a mesh by polygonal method and creating the outline. Or we can do a rectangle, even rotated rectangle once again. What for is mesh tool in Archicad? Mesh tool actually works as is used mostly as the base of our model. So when I zoom out, you can even see that the preset of mesh tool is kind of a grass texture thing. What is so specific about the mesh tool, and why we use this mesh tool to create the surroundings and the area, is that we can model the mesh tool in the z-axis. That is something that we cannot do with slab, and I will show you how. I will create a slab, and here we have, I will delete these 2, and I will take this somewhere in here. What we're gonna do next is that we're gonna find, we need to collapse the document tools, uncollapse the more option, and under spline, this is spline tool, we can create splines. We will use the first geometry method. It will be just a quick thingy that as we discussed on the lecture, we are creating contours. That means that this is the outline of something that will later be used as a reference to set up the height. So we will create hill by this, and I will create 2 more. Try to make it reasonable, and the top one. Okay, once again, a bit better. Okay, and now I will copy only these splines. By Ctrl D you can move them. By clicking Ctrl, you have the plus sign. Okay. So what can I do now? As you see in 3D, the slab on the left and the mesh on the right, it has no the splines are not visible on top of these, and that is because splines are only 2D elements that are not connected to our BIM model. But we can connect actually, and I will show you how. If you select the mesh and select the mesh tool and then use the magic wand, so again hold the spacebar, as you can see it changes my crosshair to this magic wand, and then find the spline, click on the spline. It will open up a tab where you can create new points in our mesh. So I will leave this option, add new points, in here, and fit to user ridges. Fit to user ridges means that if I go here, okay, so imagine that we have something like this. No, okay. Okay, imagine that we have created outline somewhere in here, and somewhere in here. If we create the outline and set up the height, I will show you how in just a few seconds, of this spline on this level and of this spline of this level, it will be really hard to calculate actually this position of this spline. So if you choose an option fit to user ridges, that means that it will just create the spline as a projection. Okay, I will show you, maybe it will be easier to understand on here. So I will click on the mesh, select the mesh tool, and hold spacebar, left click, fit to user ridges. Okay, I go to 3D, and as you can see, now our mesh has these points. They're in our mesh. Let's try to do the same with the slab. So I will select the slab, I will select the slab tool, and hold the magic wand. And as you can see, with slab tool, it doesn't really create a new geometry, it actually creates a hole. So to prove that I'm right, I will just try to select this. As you can see, our slab has a hole inside, and if I go to 3D view, this is what happens with the slab. So that is why we don't use slab. So I will delete these and we will work with this. Okay, now what I will do is that I want to set up this height of the mesh. When I select on when I click on the mesh and click on one of any of these points of this former spline, it will highlight all of them. And now I click in here, and now I will do it with the inner part, sorry. So I will click on here, and it will open my options to edit, and I will choose this option, elevate mesh point. I will set that it's gonna be 5 meters high, and I will click on apply to all, click OK. What you can see is that already there is some lines in here, there's triangles, and if I go to 3D, you can see that we created this hill. And maybe to be better visible, I will just set up 10 meters. Okay, now you can see it better. But what if I wanted to create also a line in between? Right now, as you can see, I have these two lines. I can still select the mesh tool, and find my third spline. But right now, I will show you what happens. If I select Fit to User Edges and click on OK, at my 3D you can see that it didn't change my geometry. But if I do Ctrl Z and load it once again, and I will select no surface fitting, then look what happens right now. As you can see, if I select no surface fitting, it will only start at the 0, 0. So that means that if I have this on 0, 0 and this on 0, 0, then this is actually still not a hill, but the plane, and only from here my hill is gonna start. But I want to have also this, so okay. So this is how we create a hill in Archicad. And one more thing that we will go through is the settings of the mesh. So if I select the mesh, I can open through here, or by Ctrl T the settings, and in here you see that we have set up the home story for our mesh. So far it's in ground floor. For some sometimes for some reasons you may put it into like a foundations floor, or somewhere that you don't mind this. And in here you see the mesh height. No, this is actually mesh height. Wait, mesh height, and this is offset to home story. So if our ground floor starts at 0 and the offset is -200, then also to project 0 it's going to be -200. So that is actually the position of our mesh. What I want to show you just now is that in here you have 3 options. If you want only the top structure, you can click on this, and now as you can see it's empty. So that means that we have only the outline. It works like a shell with 0 thickness. Then you have this option to yeah, this was the solid body. So that means that if you cut through, it will be filled inside. And we have one more option, and that is this one. It looks like nothing actually happens, but no, you can see already the thickness of the slab is everywhere the same. So that means that if I pull these points up to create the hill, then also the slab is gonna pull up in there, so that it will create this hole inside. Sometimes you find this useful, for example, maybe for some foundations or so. But we will leave this option open. And in here you will select the material, generic environment is something that we can leave in here. So far I click on OK, and I go back to ground floor to show you one more thing. And that is under this tab floor plan and section, we will have some options we will go through. Show on stories, home story only. So right now it's in ground floor, so it will show up only in ground floor. If I set up home and one story up, then I will see this only also on the first story. And if I leave it home story only, then you can see that it disappears. So that's for where to show this. And you have here option to change the line pen of the cut surfaces. That will not show up right now because we have no section, but outlines it's gonna change. So I can change this uncut line pen to, for example, red. So you can see that it's red in here. And if I delete these splines, I will just select Spline Tool and Ctrl A. There is no more splines, so I will delete. Okay, now you can see that we have all the outlines in red, and in here there is also option to change the ridge pen. That is the pen that do all of these triangles. If you want to see this also, so right now you can see that it creates the geometry like this. And the thing is that it will also affect our geometry in 3D, but in 3D our outlines, these ridge pen, it will be the same as uncut line pen in 3D. And one more thing is cover fills, and I will show you. If we zoom in, because right now we're in the scale 1 to 100, so if we zoom in, this is the scale 1 to 100 and the fill set up to 1 to 100. And if I turn off the fill, then you see that it's empty. If I want to change the fill, I will leave it turned on, and I can pick from some of these presets of the fills, and then you can change also the color of the fill. So if you feel that this would be better, then you can go for it. So you can clean it very nicely. Then I will turn this off. Back to 3D and explain the last thing of Mesh Tool is this options to override surfaces. It's the same as with slab. So I can override the top surface, and I will say that the top surface will be yellow, the edges will be blue, and bottom will be golden. Okay, I click OK. Now you can see top is yellow, blue is on the edges, and golden is on the bottom. So this is how you can set up your hill. I would like you to play with this. And one more thing in here is you can change the 3D appearance from all edges sharp to, for example, all edges smooth. And now the triangles will disappear, and it will try to calculate this as something more smooth. It will try to smooth it out. It's not perfect, definitely not perfect, but it's better than before already. Okay, but right now I will just leave it like this.